Absolutely. So, I mean, it's a fundamental belief of mine that people aren't just stupid. I believe that if you show people the facts, people tend to respond to the facts. Now, the issue is that people have not been shown the facts. And that is, I think, what is exacerbating and causing a lot of these financial ills to permeate our society. But there are a few things that I wish to touch on, just basically trying to put my mind, or trying to wrap my mind rather, around what the both of you have just said. So the question that I almost have is, who is to blame? If we are to lay the blame at anyone's feet, whose feet are we to lay the blame on? Because I mean, I touched on this forum discussion that I attended not so long ago, and there were dreadful numbers that were shown there. One of them was the number of South Africans that can actually identify what a pyramid scheme or Ponzi scheme. It was like 39%, or 4 in 10 South Africans can identify what a pyramid scheme is. And there was a very interesting joke that David told in that discussion. He said he presumes and hopes rather that the only reason people don't know what a Ponzi scheme is that they've never been a victim of one, which I thought was a pretty interesting way of spinning it, putting a positive spin on what is a very precarious situation. So, I mean, there's some light at the end of the tunnel, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, the question that I have is, if we are to lay the blame at anyone's feet, whose feet are we to lay the blame at?
I'll take a first stab at that. I wouldn't say it's placing the blame somewhere, but it's rather focusing on how do we work better to prevent this. Now, Phila did mention that I worked at the FATF Ombudsman for quite a few years. So these pyramid schemes, I investigated a lot of those complaints, and we need to understand where did it come from. So I am going to touch on quite a sensitive subject today. I mean, if we look at the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, the report that came out. If we look then at who is involved in organizations, you really need to understand beneficial ownership and who's the real owner behind FSPs, behind collective investment schemes, behind investments like property syndications. What do you have beneficial ownerships? So let's start with how do we better regulate the individuals that are really accountable for the financial institutions. And we also need to hone closer on, into their own personal code of ethics and conduct. And I recall in investigating these complaints, they would always target the vulnerable, people who really show a lack of understanding. Widows, I think, was a part of the population that was hit because they are left without a loved one. They have children who have maybe moved on to different countries or not living close to the widow, and that yearning to trust someone. And then you have somebody coming in and say, yes, you can trust me. And the moment somebody has to say to me, you can trust me, guess what? I don't trust you. Because you have to display your behavior that I can actually trust you. So I'm not going to answer the question on who do we blame, but if we look at rather what do we blame? So what can we then blame? Well, we look then at from a regulatory point of view. Again, you did mention we are in a vastly different world than what we were in the 90s. I mean, if you look at South Africa as a country, where we've moved to since 1993, 1994, that's when the regulations quite drastically changed. And then we had to start implementing, some of these regulations coming in phase, and it's a journey. And I think we need to appreciate it's a journey. And then we have not done all we can. And it's important that we have every single person that's involved in the financial services sector, which is quite large. It's from banking to investment to the markets to financial planning to advice. I mean, when the FSB, Financial Standards Board, changed their name to the Financial Sector Conduct Authority, that's in terms of twin peaks. So I do want to say that I believe that that's the right move from National Treasury side, especially when the subprime crisis came in from the Americas, and we saw, and that was South Africa being proactive to bring in a twin peaks concept with a prudential authority and the conduct authority. And we have to, and I want to ask any single professional online and any financial advisor, if you have not moved in your mindset from a tick box approach to a conduct approach, because it's about critically on a daily basis questioning your own conduct, you always need to ask, am I doing the right thing? Is there an inherent conflict of interest? In other words, I do not have the best interest of the client at heart. Then maybe you should not be doing what you are doing, because the client's best interest must be at the center of every single thing that you do. Transparency and consistency. And always be that conflict of interest. So I wouldn't say it's who do we blame. It is rather what do we blame and what can we do as a collective to fix the standard and the overall mindset of the people that's in the financial services sector.